Hello guys, welcome to the next video tutorial on C programming for beginners. In the last two videos, we have seen how a loop works in a C, and we have learned how to use while loop and do while loop in C. Now in this video, we are going to learn how to use for loop in C. So for loop is also a kind of loop which depends upon the initialization condition and the increment property. So let's see what is the basic structure of for loop, and then we will take an example and see how it works. So the basic structure of for loop looks like this, and this structure starts with a keyword for, and then comes these brackets, and in these bracket comes three arguments, and these arguments are separated by these semicolon. Okay, so these are the semicolons, and these are three different parameters, and then comes these two curly braces, and if the condition in this for loop is true, then this code inside your for loop will be executed. Now first parameter in this for loop is called init or initialization of something. Second parameter checks whether some condition is true or not, which is related to initialization. And then the third parameter is the increment of the parameter which you have initialized in the first parameter. So this is the basic structure of for loop. Now let's take the same example which we have been seeing in the last two videos, just printing 0 to 10 as an integer. So I will just declare a variable which is equal to 0, and on the basis of this variable I want to print 10. But in the last video I have shown you that you need to declare this, first of all initialize it, and then you need to give the while loop and then check the condition and then increment. But in the for loop it's done automatically, and you don't need to initialize anything separately. But what we will do is we'll just start with for, and then with a bracket, and inside this bracket I have told you first a parameter is the initialization. So initialization, you can do it like this: int I, and then I is equal to 0, right? It's just like declaring a variable int a is equal to 0, like this. Okay, so in for loop we don't need to do this kind of initialization separately, but we can do it inside the for loop. Okay, now comes the semicolon, and then comes the condition. So as we have seen in the last two videos, that in while loop and do while loop we check some condition to fulfill, and if this condition is fulfilled, then we execute the code. So in this for loop we are checking if I is less than 10. Okay, so we are checking this condition if the value of I is less than 10, because we have initialized I with 0. Value of I will be replaced here, and it will check first of all 0 is less than 10, which is true, and it will keep on going like this until and unless the condition is met. Now the third parameter is incrementing the values like this, I plus plus, and in the previous videos I have told you I plus plus just means I, for example, I is equal to I plus 1. It's just like this. In short, whenever you want to increment the value of any variable, you just write I plus plus like this. Okay, Now comes your curly braces. So what we have done in our for loop, we have initialized a variable, and then we are checking on the basis of that variable if some condition is true, and we are incrementing the variable which we have initialized. Now we just need to do whatever we want to do inside our for loop. For example, we want to print, so we just write printf, and then we can write the value of I is equal to percentage d, right? And then comma I, and don't forget this semicolon here, and this should be value. Okay, so the for loop takes care of your initialization, condition and increment, and then you can do whatever you want to do inside your loop. And this loop will print the value of I from 0 to 10, and it's incrementing it also. Now let's first run our program and let's see what's the result. And first of all, what's it saying? Some error it's showing, so I will see what's the error. And the error is for loop initial declaration are only allowed in here. Okay, so what we will do here? So if you see this error which says that for loop initial declaration are only allowed in C99 mode, then you have C99, which is a newer version of C, is not enabled in your IDE, especially in code blocks. So to enable this C99 in your code blocks, you just need to go to your project. So just right click your project here, or you can just go to the settings here. So I will prefer to go to my project and right click my project, and I will go to the build or the properties here, the last option. So go to the last option called properties, and in here go to project build option. So click this project builds option, and in here it will open project builds option, and in here you will be able to see compiler flags, and there is a tab called other options. Okay, in other options you just need to type this minus std is equal to C99. Okay, so just type this minus std is equal to C99, and just click OK. Click OK, and I will just paste it here so you can see it better. It's minus std C99. Okay, now when I compile this program and run this, it runs, right? And I should give this line break here so we can see the output, and now we can see from 0 to 9 the value of I is printed. And how it's working? So initially we initialize the value of I is equal to 0, and then C checks this condition if the value of I, which is initially 0, is less than 10 or not. If it's less than 10, then it goes here and executes your code first, and then after your code execution, just above this curly braces ending, it increases the value of I. So then before the value of I was 0, now it becomes 1, and then once again it checks whether this condition is true. 1 is less than 10, which is not true. It prints the value of I and then increments the value of I just before here. So I becomes 2, and it goes and goes and goes until and unless this condition becomes false, and then it goes out of the loop. Okay, so once again it prints from 0 to 9, and if you want to print 0 to 10, just add equal to after your greater than or less than sign. Okay, so there is a simple rule here, is always use equal to after your greater than or smaller than this symbol. Okay, and once again when you run the program, it prints from 0 to